It's one of my favorite things about this town, actually, is the fact that we can support a job like this. And in fact, there's a number of media outlets here that write about medical technology. You've got Catherine Grayson over at the Biz Journals. You've got Michelle Cortez, she's over at Bloomberg. You've got Chris Newmarker over at Mass Device. There's a lot of medical journalism talent in this town. And so it's really an honor to be here and be part of that community. Just wanted to say again, thank you very much for being here. I wanted to mention something that I've heard a lot about, both in this stage and in the smaller rooms for the breakouts, which is virtual reality and the use of virtual reality in healthcare. It's a really interesting thing, and I don't know if you've experienced it yourself. I think it would actually be very interesting if there were, VR stations here in the exhibit hall. I don't know if maybe that's on tap for next year or something like that, but it's such an interesting technology. I wrote about it about a year ago. It was being used in a senior high-rise center, and a lot of the people who are using this technology are essentially they use wheelchairs or they have very limited mobility, and this technology can cover their eyes and deliver them seamlessly to Stonehenge. They can take a canal ride through Amsterdam. They can see all these sites that they wish they could go see and are very difficult to see these days. And all they have to do is sit down in a chair, put on a VR headset. I'm still waiting to see the data on that. We'll see, if you can track the outcomes, and I suppose there could be risks to that therapy. I can't think of what they are other than maybe, falling out of your chair or something. But really interesting to see. I also want to mention something that I have not heard stated specifically here yet, but I think it's an important point to mention. It's about Minnesotans. We've heard a lot about, Minnesota nice and the sort of can-do attitude here in Minnesota and the sort of the spirit of cooperation and trying to move the healthcare system ahead. I'm here to tell you there's also, though, a tough-mindedness in this industry, and it's good. People here know exactly what it takes to get a product or service through the FDA, and they're not going to sugarcoat it when you ask them how you do that. It's difficult, and it takes experience. It takes know-how and certainly some financial backing as well. But I think that's one of the most interesting things about this community is people are friendly and they're nice and they're opening, but when you get down to brass tacks, they don't mess around. I think that's good. I think it's a testament to the seriousness that people approach this topic here. So I'm really looking forward to some of the presentations today. I think that I'm really interested to hear the head of healthcare research for Facebook. I think that'll be a very interesting talk. There's a talk on the use of, I believe it's advanced analytics, I would certainly say, for diabetes that's being put on by Medtronic Diabetes and IBM Watson. And then, of course, Arianna Huffington at noon. So really appreciate the time to be up here and glad everyone could make it out. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President and CEO of Minnesota USA Expo, Mark Ritchie.
Good morning, everyone. I want to take a minute to thank the staff who's helping make this incredible event happen for us, the sponsors whose support was crucial for this to be able to be born this week here in Minnesota, and especially for our leaders, Kathy and Mark and Eric. Let's give them our warmest appreciations for helping make this happen for all of us. I'm going to give you a quick 101 class on World's Fairs and why the World Expo on Health and Wellness is coming to Minnesota in 2027. We've got a lot of work to do, but let's talk about it quickly here today. Expos are where people come to see the future. Millions of people, 10 million people will come to the smallest ones that'll come soon in Buenos Aires and other places. 73 million people came to Shanghai to look at the future of cities. 24 million came to Milan to look at food and where are we going with feeding the planet. 30 million people will come to Dubai. Their theme, Connecting Minds, Creating the Future, really focuses on why expos were born over 150 years ago and why 100 million people come every decade to see the future. But perhaps more important, 1 billion people come online, come virtually. And with these evolutions in virtual reality and augmented reality, this is going to be part of that future. When Minnesota hosts, that will be a key part in 2027. So when we began this process, working on this 4 or 5 years ago, we had to first convince our federal government that it was important to engage in the world. Now, this is always a debate in our country. From the founding till today, are we part of the world? Are we on our own continent? Do we pull up the moat, or do we welcome immigrants? I mean, it's always a debate. We were fortunate enough to get the support for Minnesota's bid from the previous administration and the current administration, so that was crucial. Support also from the U.S. Commerce Department and State Department. They play a key role, and we're right in the middle of that now with the Commerce Department. But Congressman Emmer, who you heard from, and Senator Obashar, Amy Klobuchar and Tom Emmer led the fight in Congress, led the debate, and they delivered unanimous support for Minnesota's bid and for rejoining the international body that regulates them in a time when people thought that was impossible. And so those two Minnesotans will go down in history as the people who helped make this happen. We also have incredible international support. Our last bid, it always takes a few times to be approved. I mean, it takes a while to get people to know you and who you are. But we were supported by so many countries, we got into the finals, even though we had been gone for 20-some years, and we were behind in our dues and all of the things you don't want to be. But that's because we have international people who really support the theme of health. Yes, Minnesota is central, and health is crucial to who we are as a people, how we take care of each other, our economy. But around the world, this topic is the most important topic. It is what people light up. When I say to them, we want you to come to Minnesota for World Expo on health and wellness, they light up. They tell me a story about themselves or their loved ones. They tell me a story about their country and what they're doing. So health is a critical factor. Minnesota has historic ties to so many parts of the world. People have come here from over 200 countries. We keep strong relationships with the whole planet. This is crucial to being supported in an international bid. And finally, global leaders have endorsed our bid. Kofi Annan, the former Secretary General of the UN, was here just a few months ago. Some of you know he went to McAllister. He passed away very recently. It's a big international awareness of his leadership on a global level. One of his last things was to write us a beautiful letter of support for Minnesota, where he spoke about how welcoming Minnesota was to him when he came here, how welcoming we are to the world, and why it's crucial to have a World Expo on health and wellness here in Minnesota in the summer of 2027. So once we have this international support, we can begin to put this together in partnership with other international initiatives. You heard a little bit earlier in this conference about Dubai's big expo coming up in the winter of 2020, going into the early spring of 2021. Their focus on the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations follows Minnesota's decision early on in our bid to be directly linked with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Goal number 3 is health. The theme, the mission of our expo, the theme, the mission of that Sustainable Development Goal is the same: good health and well-being for all at all ages. So what's our timeline? 2027 seems like a long ways away. It's just a year before that next Ryder's Cup. So if you're planning that Ryder's Cup summer, this is the year before. It's 1 year after our nation's 250th birthday, and we're talking to the international and national leadership about having that closing ceremony for that nation's, our U.S. 250th birthday, here in Minnesota that July 4th. So 2027 is coming right up. This is the year we finish the process for federal recognition. Our proposal is on its way now to Commerce Department, who does the first approval. Next year will be global campaigning. We're inviting heads of state from all over the planet to come. We had a success recently. The head of state, the new prime minister of Ethiopia, came. But we'll be having people from around the planet, foreign ministers, health ministers, heads of state, coming to check us out. And so that's exciting, but it's also crucial to how we will build their support. Next, there'll be Dubai Expo. In Dubai, they are going to have the largest exposition, World's Fair, ever. They're devoting the money and the time. They will launch and bring to the planet's attention new ultra-high-speed Hyperloop technology being developed by Virgin America, a firm from Los Angeles, that we are very closely tied to, and hopefully then we'll bring that technology here for our expo. But Dubai will be a big deal. It'll be right before the vote on our bid, and so we'll be crucially involved there. We'll make our formal presentation, and the vote will come in either 2021 or 2022. Right now, there's no international competition with our bid, no national competition, and this is the bid that's now, the application they call it, at the U.S. Commerce Department. So, what happens in Dubai? The U.S. will have one of the largest and most prestigious pavilions at that next big World's Fair. The Dubai people have been very closely tied to our bid, very strong supporters. This pavilion is being put together. There were just meetings here locally with 3M and Medtronic and others. The Minnesota companies, Minnesota organizations will have a big role to play in Dubai. And so we're helping to use that to build our support globally. This building, by the way, will be created in the U.S., dismantled, shipped, dismantled, and brought back. A number of cities around the U.S. are competing to be the home for where that pavilion goes. Bloomington is now thinking about, and other cities in our region are talking about trying to have it come back here. So we'll see what happens with that. And now this opportunity becomes something that puts a spotlight on Minnesota. 20 million people will come, 80% from within a day's drive, the rest from around the world. A couple $2 billion will be new spending here and in other parts of the country. Lots of official visits, particularly ministers of health, foreign ministers, people who will be decision makers, and we hope to host a number of the UN global conferences on health that are part of the Sustainable Development Goals. It'll be the 50th anniversary of the Stockholm Environmental Gathering soon. It'll be the 30th anniversary of the Rio Summit, where sustainable development was really launched for the modern era. We want to be the place on the planet where those conferences are held. And finally, thank you. Thank you for being here, helping to create a future where the whole world comes to Minnesota to see not just what we've done, but to see where we're taking the future, bringing their ideas so we take that future together. Thank you very much.